Welcome back. Let's now look at the WordPress migration process. This is particularly important. Like once you have developed the WordPress site, it is always better to take a backup, and just not the backup, you need to ensure that the backup is working. So there are various ways to do it. So let's look at that. So there are two approaches for the backup. One is, of course, the automated process. You have various tools which can be made as a plugin. You got to install the plugin. The one is called the Updraft Plus. So all you need to do is go into the plugins and search for this plugin, and you can install the plugin. You can take the backup, not an issue. You can even restore it, but it needs to be in the same instance or domain. Instance or domain meaning if the IP address changes, yes, it doesn't work. You got to go for a costed version. So because generally you have a production box, you have a development box. So if the development server IP is different, it will not work. That cross migration is not available in the free version. It is costed. And similarly, suppose for example, if you have capsols.com, you want to have it as dev.capsols.com. In that case also it doesn't work. You need to have the costed version. The other one is, of course, the duplicator. It's again a plugin, duplicator. You can search for duplicator and then you can install it. But I had issues with the duplicator as well. So that is where I was looking for an option, because as I come from a technical background, I have some knowledge on the SQLs and the shell scripting. I found the manual migration much more effective. I was able to migrate, and I have shown it in the earlier presentation. I was able to migrate it using SQLs and shell script. So we look at the manual migration process. There are a sequence of steps involved. First is, yes, in the development virtual environment, just create the WordPress install. In the another machine, just follow the sequence of steps which I have demonstrated earlier. You need to have a WordPress install, normal WordPress install done. Once the WordPress install is done in that machine, take a production backup of the MySQL database where you have a production server running. You need to get into the MySQL and take a backup of that, the production database. And that is basically taking a backup in the sense you just need to do an export of that DB. There are commands for that. I'll I will discuss the commands as well. So do that. That is export of the DB, and then in the new database, that is whatever you have created, not the production one. I reiterate, not the production one, but in the development server where you have installed the WordPress, you need to remove all the just drop the tables. That is WP tables one after the other. That needs to be dropped. So the point we are trying to attempt is you drop the table and you need to import back the tables from the whatever we have taken the export. From the export file, we have to import back into the import the production database from the export file. So that is into the new virtual machine. That is step 4. So that means you have the new development environment database. Once you perform the import, you have a similar database in the development instance similar to the production instance. The database are going to be same. Once that is done, you got to the database are same. The database part is taken care till this one. That is step 2, step 3, step 4. Basically export, drop the tables in the development environment, and then import all the tables through which you have the export. Use the export file to import into the development environment. The next step is all the content. So you need to, all the contents which is there in the production system, you got to zip the contents and move that into, use the FTP, and you got to move into the development environment, unzip the content in the development environment. So this is as far as the files are concerned. So the first one is of course the DB part, the database part. The second one is the file part. So you need to zip the contents and move into the development environment, and finally check the WP config, because it's not needed. We'll see that you got to use the same database name, password, user ID, password in the development instance as well, so that you don't need to really check on that. So we'll go into a little bit of details in the subsequent presentation. So I'm just giving an overview. I'm not going to really get into the hands-on on this part. So, but this is the process. So, have an understanding of the process, and if required, yes, you can attempt it as well. So basically the first part is the database part. So you got to export the from the production instance, import into the development instance after clearing out all the tables, and the content also, WP content, that alone you need to zip from the production environment into the development environment. So prior to doing that, remove all the WP content in the development environment. Once that is done, so we have almost the same environment. There is one more entry need to be made. I'll show that in the database, because currently the production database could be pointing into the production system. So entry need to be made in a particular table known as WP options. So that entry need to be made. Once the entry is made, everything is same. Both the boxes will work similarly, because on the contents are moved, the database is also moved from the production into the development. So it will work similar to what you have in the production box. So we'll see that in the subsequent presentation. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's now look at the steps involved in detail. The first is of course following my earlier presentation and discussion. We got to make PHP install, the Apache server, and then the WordPress, and have the MySQL all in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. To make it easy, just similar to the production box, to make it simple, use the same user ID and password. Whatever you have used in the production box, use that in the other environment also. I keep calling that as a development environment, suppose, because if you want to test out anything, you can do that in the development environment, which has just the IP address. If you want, you can register that IP address. You need to have one more domain registry as dev. Maybe in my case dev.capsol.com, or any other thing as you wish. Then make it point it the IP address, have a DNS entry for that IP address, it will work. Otherwise, if you want to keep it that as an IP address itself, then you can do so as well, the development environment. So just first step is create that environment. So create that environment with the user ID, password, just like production. And then the next step is log on to the production environment through PuTTY, because the next step is you got to export the database. So this is the command over here, MySQL dump -p -u root WordPress, and this is the file name. It will get the export file name is this one, dname.sql is the file name. It will ask for the password for creating the dump, MySQL dump. So whichever is the password to connect to the MySQL, provide that password. Once you have done, you'll have a, after export it takes few seconds or maybe a minute depending upon the size of the database. And and again the WordPress is the database name. So whatever the database production database name you have, you need to provide with the same name. So it creates the export file. So that's the that creates the export file, and then you need to import into the development environment. For that to happen, you need to log into the MySQL database, because we need to drop all the tables. So use database. Maybe in this case, if you are using WordPress, is the database name. While creating, use WordPress. So in that case, it will use that database, and then drop tables one after the. I think there are about 10 to 12 tables which is created automatically while installing the WordPress. So all these tables needs to be dropped. So drop table WP underscore, one after the other you drop it. So the table gets dropped, and post that so all the auto created WP tables are dropped, and then you come out of MySQL and then run the import command. You need to run the import command. Here is the import command, that is MySQL p root WordPress. So this should import into the development environment. So for that, I mean, you need to also ensure the whatever the export file is brought into the development environment. So you need to FTP it. So follow the commands as earlier, then FTP it. So with that, all the database part is over. You can log in into the MySQL environment and check whether you have the same set of tables, and then you got to go. That's what I said. WP options will be one table, and because you have moved the database from the production to development, if you look at this select option value, that will be having a production value. Maybe in my case it could be Capsol, but so that needs to be replaced with, if it is an IP address, then you need to execute this command, HTTP. This is a command which needs to be executed. If it is an IP address, then you have the IP address value substituted over here. Both things have to be, that is site name and home in the table WP options need to be replaced. So run the update statement and then issue a commit statement as well in the development box. So once you've done that, it points to the IP address of the development environment. So the database part is taken care, and then comes the content, that is all the files. So make a zip of all the contents which is there in the production environment under var www html. So zip it. So sudo, this is a command, sudo zip is a command. So you'll have a file by name wp content.zip. This takes maybe about a few minutes, so you need to be patient. Once and again, this needs to be run on the shell script command line, that is sudo, because the sudo zip, you need to run that. And once it is created, FTP that into that file WP content into the new environment under home OPC. And then, because you will not have access, because while FTP you will not have access to the var www.html, this folder, you will not have the OPC user will not have access. So you need to first move it into the home OPC, and then you need to copy that into the HTML folder. And once done, you got to unzip WP content. Unzip this command WP content unzip, and remove the WP content zip as well, because it might slow down the server. So remove that. So once that is done, just check. This is just to check, because while creating, that's where I said, while creating a new environment, have the same DB name, username, password, so that you don't need to change it. If you have changed it, so in that case, it will have a new. It should reflect the new names which you have used. So check that WP config. So change as required. If required, you change it. Otherwise, you don't do it. So with this, basically, like what you need to do is, as I said, the database needs to be moved from the production box to the development box. and then you got to update the WP options file. The table needs to be checked where you have the values. This needs to be updated, and then finally the contents needs to be moved. WP contents needs to be zipped and moved into the development environment. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving this presentation PPT also is available in the resources section, so you can very well download it. If you are using the migration step, you can go through this and then use that and run the commands as appropriately. I'll also quickly get into the, the next presentation, I'll quickly get into the SSH of both the boxes and just show you the directory path. Though it is clear from the presentation, I'll just get into the production and as well as the development environment box and show you the details as well. Thank you. Stay tuned. I have logged into the development instance Linux box through the SSH. And just wanted to show a couple of things. So once you log into the MySQL, so do you remember to log into the MySQL sh --SQL root at localhost, provide the password, so it will get into the SQL prompt. And here you say show databases. That will give you all the databases. And if you have created initially database as Wordpress, the other 4 are auto created by Wordpress, so don't worry about that. When you create the MySQL as well, it gets created, so don't worry about that. The last one, WordPress, is what I have created. So to use WordPress database, you say use WordPress. So that will use here. If you see WordPress SQL is there. So now I say show tables. All the tables which were created so far, it will get displayed. So these are the tables. So similarly, when you created instance initially using the WordPress, some of the tables might not be there. Like duplicator is when I created installed a plugin WP duplicator, that got created. Action scheduler, when I plugged in some other things, it got created. Otherwise, the rest of the packages are auto created when you make a fresh install of WordPress. So in the development environment, those tables needs to be dropped, which are auto created, and then export from the production environment and then import back. So I've already done the import into the development environment, so that's where all these are available. So coming back to the another point is WP option that has a column called option value that points to the what is the server it points to. So select option value from WP options, where option name equals site URL. Select option value from WP options where option name equal to site URL. So I think there is an error syntax. So select let me try again. So had wrongly spelled the table name on WP hyphen, it should be underscore. So if you look at it, it shows the IP address. This is the development instance. But initially, if you look at the production instance, it will be like whatever the domain I have registered. It should be, in my case, it should be capsols.com. The website name will be there. Similarly, in the other field as well, home as well, you will have the same you will have the same IP address, because I have already issued the update statement over here. So when you move initially from production into the development, this will be whatever value is there in the production box, that will come over here as well. When you issue the select statement, that is where you need to issue the update statement, so that if you are using an IP address, yes, that needs to be updated. So let me show you the production box, what it will be. So this is the production box over here. So if you look at it, it has capsols.com. That is what will get initially when you move the database, but then you need to issue the update statements so that it points to the correct IP. So both the things, like not only the site URL, the other one is option name equal to home. Both the things needs to be updated so that the development instance is correctly working. So that is as far as the database is concerned. First you need to export and then import into the development environment, then drop all the tables, drop all the tables and then import it, and finally you need to issue the update statement so that it points to the specific IP address of the development environment. So once you are completed with the database, the next one is ensure that you have the WP content that needs to be copied across. Before copying, you need to zip the file from the production instance and then copy it into the development instance. I'll quickly show that as well. So I just came out of the MySQL. So WP content, I just FTP'd it into the development instance, and you need to, if you look at it, it is home OPC, because when you FTP, you don't get access to the root. So use the WinSCP to upload into the development environment, and then after that you can move it into the, to do that you need to have root privileges, sudo bash, that you get into the root, and then cp wp content into var www html. This is a command which will copy the WP content zip into this folder, var www html, and then what you need to do is you got to unzip it. Once you move into the HTML folder, you need to unzip it, then the site will be up and running. So that's about the migration process. So if you're really interested into having a migrated environment so that you can progress further with the development, you can have the migrated environment as a development instance to further keep developing your environment, and then whenever required, if testing is all right, then you can then perform the same action in the production environment. Thank you.